So in the last video, I talked about designing an ebook cover. An ebook cover, I didn't say this, but an ebook cover is basically a JPEG. It's the front of your book. It's usually, I make mine 1800 pix by 2700 pix, which is a good book looking size for Amazon or iBooks or whatever. You probably also want to make a smaller version. You can make 3D images for promotion, but you can get a designer to do that, or you can get that made on Fiverr.com. But if you want a print book that's going to, like a real book, a physical book, then you need to make a book cover for print, and that's a different thing than just the front ebook cover. So the ebook cover you can make in Photoshop or other tools. You're going to save it as a JPEG, and it's a flat single JPEG image that looks book-shaped. For print, you have to calculate, it's basically the same thing, and then the other side is the back. It's about the same size, but because it's print, there's going to be a trim around the edges, so you need to add a little bit of an extra margin around the edges. If you're publishing it Createspace, which I recommend, you can go to Createspace and download a free template. Keep in mind that they have like a template generator. You can type in the page number, and they'll make a template for you, but they round up or down. So the template, like if you have 184 pages, they'll round up to 190 pages. And so your template, the spine will be a tiny bit too big. 5 pages, more or less, isn't probably going to make a big difference. But if the spine doesn't fit the book cover, then the spine's going to be a little bit off. It's not going to fit on the crease perfectly. That also matters if you're choosing cream or white paper, because they have different thicknesses and different printers, because Amazon Createspace, they use a lot of different printers, and it's not always going to be exactly the same, especially when you are publishing a big book like 500 plus pages. There's more and more problems with the page width variance. So when you publish a really thick book, it's going to be harder to get your book cover spine to fit on those creases perfectly, because different batches of printing might be like a tiny bit difference. They might use a batch of paper might be a little bit wider or something. So that might take more time to get it right. But you have to basically calculate the spine width, and then get the template, and then calculate for the trim that goes around the edges, and then do all that stuff. That's for a print book. The print book, you're going to have your front cover. Your front cover just has the title and the subtitle, the author name. I should probably make another video about like what to put on your front cover, but you need a nice picture. It's just to attract their attention. You might want, the most important thing is you have to let readers know what the book is about, like what the genre is. So, for example, if you're writing a vampire romance, if you have vampire in the title, you don't have to have a picture of a vampire. If you have a vampire in the subtitle or the tagline, like a vampire romance novel, then you don't need it in the title, and you don't need a picture of a vampire. You don't need a picture of a vampire and vampire in the title and vampire in the subtitle. That's too much. You should probably focus on a long tail keyword, or like something that gives a little bit more information. You want to give a little bit of information, like maybe a southern vampire romance set in Texas or in the 18th century, or you want to give the crucial, critical information that might influence the buyer decision. Not too much, but just a little bit. Or maybe like a little bit of a review or a blurb on the front cover. Because if you look at the front cover and the fonts and the title and the subtitle, if nothing really says the genre, that's a big problem. If you can't look at the cover and know immediately who the audience is, what category this fits in, what the book is about. Sometimes I can't even tell if it's like fiction or nonfiction, which is a huge problem. But for fiction, you should be able to look at it and know it's a vampire romance or a Western or a space odyssey. You should know that right away. And if you don't, you have a problem. For the back cover, that's where you're selling the book. So the back cover, you want to have reviews, you want to have blurbs, you want to have your sales description. And your sales description, it's not a summary of the book. It's different than like what you would, if you were trying to sell the book to an agent or a publisher, you would write a description or a summary of like what actually happens. But in the sales copy, you're not telling readers what happens because you want them to buy the book and read it. You're just hinting. You're setting up the characters, the setting, the chief conflict, and then you're asking questions like, will the heroine be successful? Will she choose love or save her family or whatever? You don't want to give away the ending in the sales copy. On the back of your book, you probably want to have an author bio or a small picture of you. You want to have your social media contacts. There's a lot of I'll put some extra content or write some posts about this. I've written posts before, but what you have on your back cover is important. And most self-publishing authors just put a description that isn't very good, and that's it. And there's a lot of extra space. Most of your books aren't going to be sold in the real world anyway. Most of your books are going to be sold online. But if your book happens to be somewhere in a bookstore or an event, and they pick it up and look at the back cover, you want to make that sale. And so the back cover copy is just for any extra information that will help convince the reader to buy the book. And if you're putting anything else on there that doesn't help them make that purchasing decision, that's a misuse of the space. So you want to be careful not to just, you don't want like a huge author bio if that's not convincing them to buy. You want to be careful with the reviews that you select, that it's not just repetitive. You want to make sure that everything you put on there is adding a new piece of information that helps overcome reader objections so that they buy the book. And also just to make it look more professional. Usually, for example, it'll say the photography or the cover design is made by this person or the publisher. You probably want a publisher imprint on your spine and on the back of your book. A publisher's imprint is just like the little logo. If you're self-publishing, it's fine to make your own. You don't have to like lie or hide it. You don't have to make a whole new fake publishing website for your publishing house. Don't do anything like that. But think of a brand name. Like if you're writing a certain type, like I'm writing mostly young adult fiction, so my brand name is Urban Epics. So I have a little logo, which is just the U and the E as a logo that I put in the spine. I put the same thing on the back cover. It's not fancy. It's not really a logo. It's just text in a certain font that looks good. You don't have to do something fancy. You don't really have to pay to get a logo made for your publishing company. That's overkill. Just do something simple. But it probably is a good idea to have it there, because if you don't have something on the spine or on the back cover with a publisher, then everybody's just going to know it's self-published, which isn't a big deal, but you still want it to look and feel like a traditionally published book that readers are used to. I have a lot of other stuff on book design and making a full print cover and videos that you can watch, but I'm going to stop this video here so we can talk about something else.